Is India's economy a threat to China? Well, let's take a look at this in this video today.
Yes, sirree.
I'm not freaking blind, guys. It's Gweilo style.
I think it's Thursday.
You could die.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Geez, you know.
Oh yeah, because it goes on and on and on. For all you haters, there's something to chew on for the next couple of minutes. Welcome back to the Gweilo 60 channel. You see on the news here, just lately, Modi goes on TV and says that the Indian economy is growing so fast that it's going to overtake Japan and Germany and become the third largest economy in the world by 2030. So that's only another, what, 6.5 years? Okay, well, they got 1.4 billion, over 1.4 billion people, the largest population in the world now. So you'd think that they would have a robust economy. Well, you know, they say it's growing at what, 6.2 or 6.4% this year in 2023. And that's better than China. China's only shooting for about 5% in 2023. But those numbers don't tell the whole truth, do they? If you look at the GDP of India, it's very small. I think it's 5 times smaller than the Chinese GDP. And that's a lot because they have about the same population. So China basically is 5 times richer than India is at this point. So to gain 6.2 or 6.4% on this small GDP number is a lot easier than adding 5% to China's GDP, which is a much larger number. You see this in developing countries all the time where they're going gangbusters and they're making big percentage GDP growth per year. But they're working on such a small GDP that it doesn't really tell the truth about it. It's not that big of an accomplishment, especially for a country with over 1.4 billion people in it. That said, there's a lot of good things going on in India. The last video I did maybe didn't give them enough credit. Well, actually, in dealing with the rapes and the demented stuff that goes on in India, I think that video was right on target. But India's taking a page out of the China playbook now. They're starting to invest in infrastructure. Yes, they're building more airports, better airports. They're building roads and tunnels and bridges. They're mimicking what China started doing 30 years ago. Oh yeah, they are. The investment in infrastructure in India between 2015 and 2023 has grown 5-fold. Okay, so they understand that if they grow their infrastructure, if they grow their trains, their roads, their tunnels, their bridges, all of the things that they watched China do over the years, then maybe down the road they'll be able to compete with China on a one-to-one basis. At least they'll be able to be competition to China in some areas. And you know that the Chinese are basically demonized for the way that they deal with things. And because India is watching China and sort of copying what they do, because if China can do it, well, India should be able to do it. The ID cards now, the what do they call it, Aadhaar? It's a 12-digit ID card that 99.9% of adult Indians have. It identifies. It's a digital identification through a fingerprint, through face recognition, whatever. They can tell who everybody is. It's easier for setting up bank accounts and penalizing people or fining people or whatever. Oh no, penalizing people, that would only be in China, not in India, because the democratic country like India would never do something like that. But they're getting better in some of these areas where everybody was just sort of out there before. Now, if there's government help, they know who the person is. They have a personalized ID. Bank accounts can be set up real easy, and that's on the right track. This other geo what the hell was it called? The Geo Revolution. And a billionaire Indian dude, he figured out that if the Indian population was given cheap cell phones and cheap data packages for those cell phones, then everybody could get linked up on the internet. And it actually worked. In 2014, on mobile data, the Indians were sitting at I think 122nd in the world as a country. Now they're number one in the country for mobile data use, and not only number one in the country for mobile data use. And like I've been to China, and everybody's got their face in their phone, but they use more data in India off their mobile devices than China and the United States does combined. So they're moving in that right direction. They're connected to the world. They're building their infrastructure. They're doing good things. Everybody's got their digital ID now. Everybody is. But then again, when I was just looking at the news, and like I do, yeah, and this father, because his daughter went out without his consent. So he caught up to her, he killed her, and he dragged her around the village behind his motorcycle. Now we go back to that same old, the mindset of the Indian people, and how they have to change that mindset from some prehistoric guys are better than girls to what was it? A number of years ago. Let's go back about 15 years, and 30% of the workforce population was female. It's frowned upon. Girls shouldn't be out there working. They should be in the home, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids. And that has grown in India over the last 15 years, and now 23% of women work outside the house. So they're going in an opposite direction than a civilized country's supposed to go. Women are supposed to be able to go out into the workforce and live their own lives, but no, in India, it's actually out of the G20, India is the worst. They're even behind Saudi Arabia, and you know how women are looked at in Saudi Arabia. So until India brings out that half of their workforce and allows them to work without being ostracized for it, well, they'll never be a threat to China economically, just for the fact that half of their workforce is sitting at home. Not only are the women persecuted in India, but you've got about 200 million Muslims, and they're persistently persecuted by the Hindu population that is by far the majority in India. And you think that the United States would point fingers at India and say, hey, you can't treat your Muslims like that. But no, they would rather look at Xinjiang Autonomous Region where nothing's going on and point their finger at China, because China is a threat to the United States economically, where India is not a threat to the United States economically. So they let whatever happen in India because, hey, it's India. We shouldn't get into their stuff, should we? No, we can get into the Chinese stuff instead. Well, it's the way it is. So when you hear Modi sort of pumping up India and saying that we're going to be the third largest country economically in the world in 7 years, 6.5 years, he's probably right. they're building their infrastructure. They're doing better than they were 10, 15 years ago. The mindset has to change. The people have to change in the villages, or more education has to happen, because you've got to bring them out of the old Afghanistan type understanding about their women and controlling their children. The caste system, and I'll get into that. The caste system is something for an entire other video, because it just takes too much time, and these videos are only 10, 12 minutes long. But you know, without the infrastructure, there's no way they could compete with China. Without the education, the knowledge, there's no way that they could keep up with China. China would just bury them. Their manufacturing needs to grow, but their shipyards, their shipping infrastructure has doubled in size in the last 10 years. You know, so they're doing better in those areas, but yet that mindset is what sets them apart from China. They have to get past that, and I'm not sure whether they can or not. I don't think they're able to. A lot of them aren't. The older guys aren't. But India's got to get past that Western sort of ideology that somehow China is bad. You see, India right now has been talking about decoupling from China. They have shut down a number of, because cell phone sales in India is dominated by Chinese companies. And they're starting to say, well, this is a security risk. This is a competition problem for us in India. They want to compete, but they want to use the security issue, like the Americans and the Brits and the Canadians and the Australians, and you've heard it all before. They want to use that same tactic to push the Chinese out of their market. Well, if they do that, well, then the Chinese market won't be open to them. And you see that competition thing rather than cooperation. I think that if they get past that and compete in sectors that they can compete in because of less wages, lower wages, then I think that India will be moving forward. If they end up using tactics of the West to try to decouple from China, try to push China away, then they're going to run into a lot of problems, because as soon as they do that, they no longer have access to 20% of the world's consumers. They no longer have access to China cash insertion into their industries, which is big stuff over in Asia, because the Chinese have the bucks to either make or break an industry in a country. If you want to compete with them, that's fine, but compete in a fair manner. So as long as India's population is, the society is fragmented, where the women aren't allowed to go out and work, where it's frowned upon, where you've got the Muslims and the Hindus that don't see eye to eye, when you've got the caste system where if you're the rich, you're the rich, if you're the poor, you'll never be the rich, and the laws and society is made for the rich. Until you change these things, until you change the old values of how a father can go and kill his own daughter because she went out without his permission, the ruthlessness of something like that, I don't think that India will be a threat to China anytime soon. So, and you can take that to the bank, because that's the way it is. And that, my friends, is another video from Gweilo 60. If you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, push that share button, hit the bell, do all of the things that you should do. And until next time, peace out. Thanks for watching. Bye now.